Content Rules. Chapter 4. Who are you? This past year, Anne was supposedly writing this book with CC, which means that she was spending her evenings watching a lot of TV. Shows she had never watched were suddenly must-see TV, especially reality shows, which handily aired more frequently than most network sitcoms or dramas. American Idol airs up to 3 times a week, for example. And she could easily burn 2 hours a week on Project Runway or its companion show, Models of the Runway. Together, they kept her willingly distracted almost every night of the week. If you spend a lot of time watching competition shows like American Idol or Project Runway, you start to notice some patterns. Those who emerge as finalists are the ones who, as then, Idol judge Cara DioGuardi was fond of telling the singing contestants, know who they are. The designers competing for the top prize on Project Runway or solo artists on American Idol have a point of view that they express on the runway or stage. They use their voices or clothing designs to express their ideas, emotions, and unique ways of viewing the world. With this point of view as a foundation, each competitor tells a story and weaves a kind of narrative. Night after night, week after week, you start to get a sense, through that narrative, of who they really are. As much as she was trying to avoid thinking about this book, the parallel was hard to ignore. Damn. A critical step in developing great content is to develop your own distinct voice. In literature, voice is the term used to describe the individual writing style of an author. It typically refers to a writer's use of a whole bunch of things like character development, point of view, punctuation, dialogue, and so on that contribute to the overall tone of a piece. Voice is also the way your writing sounds when it's read. It's what the writer brings to words on the page, making it clear that they are written by a human with a certain personality and viewpoint. Voice casts a spell, says Stephen Pressfield, the author of The Legend of Bagger Vance, Gates of Fire, and 5 other books. The right voice makes the work accessible, it gives us the tone and point of view that best illuminate the material and make it shine. Does the idea of voice suggest something artsy-fartsy, completely outside the realm of doing business? In a word, no. In a few more words, the notion of voice actually has everything to do with your business. Voice is about who you write, Sir Langley. But in a larger sense, it's also about how you express your brand. It's about the tone you take in all of your communications and publishing. It's about figuring out what's unique about you and your perspective. Before you can truly understand your customers, you have to understand yourself, says author and content marketing evangelist Joe Pulizzi. Your organization is struggling to differentiate in a crowded market. To succeed, you need to forge a separate and unique identity, and create an enduring and memorable brand. And you need to create interesting stuff, to be shared through social channels like LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. In short, you have to stop sounding like everyone else. Like the top contestants on reality TV, your content should have a tone that immediately expresses your company's specialness and your unique point of view. If someone lands on your site, or reads your newsletter, or whatever, your content shouldn't sound like your competitors or like anyone else's, for that matter. It should sound like you. Most organizations readily distinguish themselves through the basics: design, graphics, logo, signage, and so on. Content is an afterthought or sometimes barely a consideration. In graphic and website design, for example, nonsensical Latin filler called lorem ipsum is commonly used as placeholder text, to show where the words will go. Since the actual words are usually added after all the other elements of a document or website like the typeface, typography, layout, and navigation are squarely in place, the role of content is minimized. That's just nuts. I've heard the argument that lorem ipsum is effective in wireframing or design, because it helps people focus on the actual layout or color scheme, or whatever, says Christina Helverson, author of Content Strategy for the Web New Writers, 2010. What kills me here is that we are talking about creating a user experience that will, whether we like it or not, be driven by words. The entire structure of the page or app flow is for the words. To the bottom line, words matter. Write differently. The language you use and tone of your voice provide an untapped, powerful way to forge a distinctive identity, says John Simmons in his book, We, Me, Them and It, How to Write Powerfully for Business Factor, 2002. Simmons argues that companies must expand their traditional notions of corporate identity to include language, the words a company uses, and tone of voice. Branding, after all, is about differentiation. And describing a brand begins with words. Don't rely on the same tired and worn-to-the-bone words and phrases and bland corporate tone, he implores. Typically, bland has been the tone of choice for companies, across the board. The turn of phrase or idiosyncrasy that might signal an individual voice emanating from family or personal history, cultural tastes, a playful sense of humor, simple, plain-spoken honesty has been deleted, scrubbed clean, says B2B copywriter Richard Pelletier in an article at Marketing Profs. As a result, a growing, long-term relationship with hordes of potential customers entranced by your unique and engaging way of speaking with them slips from view. You have to show them who you are, not merely let them figure it out on their own, according to Pelletier. A unique, human-sounding corporate voice is critical if you want to engage, stimulate, or excite your audience, especially now, when your content is increasingly an essential mechanism through which to define, enhance, and clarify who you are. Your tone of voice, in other words, is your greatest ally. It's the basis for the relationship you hope to create with your customers, along with your products, service, and culture, all the other things that go into a brand. in the spring of 2010, and was a judge in a contest called the Incredibly Boring Web Content Challenge, created by the Boston ad agency Captains of Industry. Much like the Statue of Liberty attracts the poor, the tired, the huddled masses longing to be free, so Captains of Industry set out to entice the dullest, least inspired pieces of online pabulum for a content makeover. The entries were astounding, and not in a good way. Consider Figure 4.1, from the Alberta Geological Survey. The Buffalo Head Hills area has the highest diamond content results to date. Figure 4.1 entry in the Incredibly Boring Web Content Challenge. See example page 56. In other words, there's diamonds in them thar hills. And lots of them. Alberta, Canada, has a potential motherlode of diamonds worth billions of dollars, and the government is looking for a partner with the resources necessary to dig them up. Or this, from Communicative Healthcare Associates in Waltham, Massachusetts. Communicative Healthcare Associates CHCA specializes in full speech-language diagnostic services, therapeutic care, and hearing screenings, and through our division, Allied Rehabilitation Associates ERA, we offer comprehensive, multidisciplinary rehabilitation services including physical and occupational therapies. In other words, they help people speak, sign, or improve their hearing. People who have lost, or never had the ability to hear a baby's giggle or the beating of a girl's wing, as it takes flight can nevertheless communicate again, or at last. There were plenty more examples. But notice how those two are absolutely devoid of personality, tone, and voice. Notice how they don't communicate anything of value about the identity of each organization. Or what's special about them. Or anything at all. Contrast those two examples with the welcome message on the homepage of Emma, a Nashville, Tennessee, email marketing company. Meet Emma, the email marketing and communication service that's taken a unique approach to web-based software. We think it should be easy to use, goodbye, cluttered templates. And it should even be fun. See you around, support phone queue. It's all about email marketing and style, and it's why 20,000 small and mid-sized businesses, nonprofits and agencies have chosen Emma to power their email newsletters and campaigns. And we'd love to help you. See how you immediately get a sense of the company you will be doing business with. You get the sense that a real person, someone in tune with your needs, actually wrote the homepage, and you start to get a sense of the fun, quirky, but capable company that is Emma. Of course, there are other elements at work here. Emma's text also sounds like it is addressed to actual people, would-be customers, and it conveys what Emma can do for them. We'd love to help you, versus merely talking about how awesome Emma is. Notice, for example, how the page didn't say, Emma is a full-service email marketing agency based in Nashville, Tennessee. More than 20,000 organizations rely on its product and services to fulfill their email marketing needs. We get into the issue of writing to your customers later in the book. For now, we are highlighting the importance of voice, because Emma has it nailed. So does NetProspects, a Waltham, Massachusetts-based sales prospecting database and email list broker. The content on the homepage of NetProspects is sparse by design, straightforward, and wholly approachable. In an industry that has been associated with shady practices and marginal reputations, NetProspects wanted its voice and design to differentiate it immediately. We considered voice and tone as much a part of the new design as we did imagery, design, and navigation, says CEO Gary Halliwell, describing the new look of his 4-year-old company's site. We wanted the overall experience for site visitors to be clear and direct. We wanted them to know what to do and, just as importantly, who they were talking to when they came to our homepage, Gary says. Ads Director of Marketing Katie Martell, our website represents who we are as a company, and its voice says we are down to earth. No smoke and mirrors. Conversational. Approachable. And no ego, because the site isn't about us. It's about our customers. The redesign had been in place for only 2 months, when we chatted with Gary and Katie, and other features and content were still in the offing. But thus far the redesign had increased site traffic by almost 50%, Katie says, and upped the average time a visitor spent on the site. More anecdotally, she added, redesigning the site gave us the confidence to put our brand out there as a player in our space, and we know that the tone of the copy not only represented who we are as a company but also made people stick around. After all, it's easy to glaze over corporate gobbledygook. Speak human. How do you differentiate your content? Be human. Markets consist of human beings, not demographic sectors, said Rick Levine and his colleagues, authors of the Cluetry Manifesto a decade ago. William Strunk and E.B. White said as much in the Elements of Style 4 decades before that, when they wrote about the importance of a straightforward communication style, WII, in a way that comes naturally. Be clear. Prefer the standard to the offbeat. More on White in a minute. Are you human? Are your customers? We thought so. And by the way, even if you are a B2B marketer, you are ultimately speaking to other humans. You may be marketing to all of your customers, but remember that you are always speaking to a single person in particular, says Jellyvision founder Harry Gottlieb. Does it sound condescending to instruct you to speak human? We don't mean it to be. Instead, we are imploring you to create content that sounds as though a person, not a corporate department, fashioned it. How? Simply, write the way you talk. Relax. Your voice should be natural, loose, and direct. Be conversational. Write a blog post, for example, as if you are writing a letter to a friend. Avoid marketing speak and other jargon. See the sidebar at the end of this chapter. lose the patch together Franken quotes. We got this word from Matthew Stubb of the United Kingdom's Articulate Marketing, who describes it as the type-loaded thing in the press release or blog post from the Senior Vice President of Marketing bullshit. Use informal colloquialisms or casual expressions. They add fizz and ginger, Matthew adds. Break some rules. Despite what you learned in school, you can start sentences with and, but, so, and because. So go on. And try it. Show, don't tell. Tell stories. Show how your products or services fit into customers' lives. Tell your audience how your stuff helps people, by telling them about those people, not by talking just about your stuff. Worry more about creating remarkable content, worry less about being professional. The minute a client starts talking about a need to come across as professional, I start worrying, says Matthew Stubb, because that's when the buzzwords, the end-to-end, win-win jargon comes out. No one believes you when you use language like that. Lighten up. Any writer will tell you that to write well you have to care about what you are creating. If you aren't interested in it, your audience won't be, either. But we need to take it up a notch for businesses. You've got to care, certainly. But you also have to approach it with a sense of enthusiasm. And even fun. Look at the examples from the Boring Web Content Challenge mentioned earlier. Why do people approach business with such grim seriousness? Perhaps people take themselves a little too seriously, because they are afraid that others won't. Or perhaps some companies think they need to speak in a certain stiff way to appear credible. In business, it's tempting and easier to use the same boring words everyone else uses. But you'll be far more approachable and a whole lot more engaging, if you lighten up a little. I worry less about shocking customers than I would about boring them, says Jellyvision's Gottlieb. We can think of very few industries in which a business might need to tone it down, maybe, if you are selling caskets to the bereaved, or perhaps weapons to the Defense Department. But unless you are in one of those businesses or a few others, your point of view should have an element of fun. And what's more, you should be having fun doing it. If you aren't having fun creating content, you're doing it wrong. Approaching your content with a sense of fun and personality doesn't mean you don't sell something dead serious, or even what some might consider boring. Consider Eloquay, a company based in Vienna, Virginia, that makes marketing software. See Figure 4.2. Eloquay created the Conversation as an interactive sales tool targeted to companies that want to learn about how to make their online marketing more effective. See example page 60.